I think this is the farthest back I have sat ever in a video, but I have a cat who's currently curled up right where I was gonna sit in front of the camera. So hopefully I'm not too far back from the camera and my crazy bun hair isn't too distracting. But I needed to start this video because I'm nearly finished this book. I intended to start this reading vlog 2 nights ago now, but I was getting ready for bed and just didn't feel like turning on the camera, but really wanted to pick up this book, so I thought, oh, I'll read a few chapters before bed. It's already getting kind of late, and then I'll pick up the camera the next day. I read like 250 pages, and then I had a very busy work day yesterday, so I read a bit more before bed, and now I think I only have 90 pages left, so it was critical for me to start this reading vlog this evening before I dive back into this book. With all of that preamble and explanation said and done, I guess I should say what video or what reading vlog I am filming, and it is going to be a friend picks my TBR. So many weeks ago now, I sent my friend a message on Messenger and asked if she would still be willing to pick out a few books from my unread shelf for me to film a reading vlog about. And Rebecca, thank you so very much for critiquing my books while knowing nothing about them and purely just picking them based on the covers and the titles. Maybe I'll actually include a screenshot over to the side here of what Rebecca's choices were. I think I sent 12 or 15 different books, and Rebecca numbered them 1 through to the very end in the order that I should read them. So number 1 on that list was Don't Call the Wolf by Alexsandra Ross. I bought this and I hauled this last summer now, and when I started this the other night, I remember I had the distinct thought, this writing is either going to work really well for me or I'm not going to be able to get into it at all. And it has worked so well. There is an incredibly strong fairy tale vibe to Ross's writing, and initially I was a bit hesitant because there's been a lot going on in my life and I wasn't sure if I could kind of fall into that romance and that lyrical prose, but I did, and I'm so grateful to this book for that. Honestly, about 150 pages in, I was thinking already, I think this is going to be a 5-star read. And I still have 90 pages left or so, but it's still hovering around that 5-star mark. I had also forgotten until about halfway through this book when I looked up the synopsis to send to a friend that this is Ross's debut. And that just made me fall even more in love with the book. I have not said anything about what the plot actually is of this book, but it is a young adult fantasy romance, and it has really strong Eastern European fairy tale, folktale vibes. Honestly, it kind of gives me The Witcher vibes, but I'm enjoying it more than I enjoyed the latter Witcher books. I'll just leave it at that. But in this, you have our female protagonist, Wren, who is the queen of the forest, and she has an interesting backstory. I don't want to give anything away. But then we have our male protagonist, Lucas, who is a dragon slayer. Now, that would be my one critique about this book. I adore dragons, obviously, if you can see my little buddy here, but I don't love when dragons are portrayed as the big, evil, nasty creatures in fantasy. I love my dragons to have a bit more depth. Thus far, the dragons are portrayed as the big, bad evil. And with our male protagonist being a dragon slayer, I don't know if that's going to change. I'm not holding my breath for it. I'm still really enjoying the book, even if that is the case. I guess I can put it down for good now. But I did want to show the cover because I think the cover is just gorgeous as well. And it says on the top that everything wants to live. And that is a recurring phrase and theme throughout this book that I am really, really enjoying. If you have watched any of my other videos, you know that I adore enemies to lovers, which this book obviously ticks so far. But also this book ticks off the ragtag group on a quest and the found family trope, which are two of my other top 5 most loved tropes that I had spoken about a fair few weeks ago now. But this book is just hitting everything that I need it to hit in this moment in time, and I'm loving it. And even though I haven't finished it yet, I'm already predicting that I'm going to want to reread it. That's how strongly I am loving this book. It's so good. Like I said, I have about 90 pages left to read, and this hasn't been a very long read or a hard read. The writing is very easy to absorb, and I've just been flying through it because I'm enjoying it so much. So it's still fairly early in the evening here, and I've made myself a cup of vanilla tea. But for now, I am going to curl up in bed with my sleeping cat next to me and very likely finish off this book, and I will check in if I have anything more to add to what I have already gone on and on at length about. We'll see. No! I have tried to start this many times now, but I just finished the book. I have stopped crying. When I first turned on the camera, I was still crying, and that's just asking for a disaster. But I finished the book and I loved it. There was no change of events that really deterred me from that 5-star feeling I had right near the beginning. It was a beautiful book, and it's a standalone, and I love standalone fantasy, maybe because they are a bit more rare. Fantasy stories tend to happen in trilogies or big series, but there's something so beautiful about a little standalone fantasy. I mean, little, it was still 500 pages, but I adored those 500 pages, and it was such a quick read. And then also, I can't believe this was Ross's debut. Then reading the author bio on the back flap of the slipcover, I realized that Ross is Canadian and has a Polish grandmother, but they grew up out in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is just so, so cool. I love supporting fellow Canadians and reading Canadian literature, and I feel kind of privileged and honored that I got to read their debut not long after it came out. I think this was published in, I'm trying to find it really quick. This was published in 2020, so not that long ago. And I will definitely be picking up Ross's next book, and am absolutely going to search this evening to see if there is any news on what's to come next. I could see how Ross could revisit this world, but personally, even though it made me cry, even though it was sad, I loved the ending of this book. And in particular, I really liked the epilogue, which usually I am not a fan of epilogues, but I think Ross did a really good job in this epilogue here in kind of picking up a few more threads and hinting at what happens after the last chapter, because when I read the last line of the last chapter, I was just like, there is no way it is ending here. I thought this was a standalone this is setting the scene for a second book. But then the epilogue kind of gave more of a conclusion. Honestly, it feels weird calling it an epilogue when I think that really is the last chapter. I am waffling on and on now because it is very hard for me to be coherent right after I finish a book. If I enjoy it like I enjoyed this one, I tend to just repeat myself and say that I really loved it multiple times, which is true in this case. However, by the time that this video goes live, I will more than likely have written up a review, so I will include a link to that down below. There is just so much good stuff in this book, and I could not recommend it higher enough. I could not recommend it more. Yeah, I could not recommend it more. If you're looking for a YA fantasy, it is romance, there's love and tension between our characters, there's the found family element, and there's also some like biological family elements with brothers in this that was really heartwarming and well done. The banter, spot on, fantastic job, Ross. And I'm gonna call it a night and just kind of go stare at a wall and think about this book for a little bit more. So I will check in when I am ready to pick up the second book that my friend Rebecca chose for me. I feel as if I have not done a speaking update for this vlog in a very long time, and that is probably because I have not. I began reading the Book of Dragons, which is an anthology edited by Jonathan Strahan, and then I got really sick with a awful cold that kind of knocked me flat for nearly 2 weeks, but I'm feeling better now. And after about a week or so, I was able to give this book some more attention and my focus was back and I was able to read some. And as you can see, I have annotated a few stories here. However, overall, Spencer, I apologize if the camera angle has moved slightly now. We had an unexpected guest join us not just once, but twice as I tried to film this little excerpt. But what I was saying is that I have marked quite a few stories here that I really enjoyed. However, for the length of the anthology, there weren't a whole lot of stories that impressed me. I did kind of find myself just trying to get through this one, and I found this to be the case with another book that I read relatively recently, in which I had such a strong emotional connection to the subject matter that I had a very personal opinion on how I feel they should be portrayed. So obviously I love dragons and therefore have my own idea in my head of what a dragon should be or what a dragon story should be. And there were a lot that sadly just didn't resonate with me. And I do find this sometimes to be the case with short stories and just anthologies in general. They'll either land really, really well with me or they'll just miss the mark. And unfortunately, this anthology kind of missed the mark. I think I would give it a 3-star, 3.5-star rating because there are some stories that I enjoyed in there and there were some quotes or moments that I found impactful, and there were a few stories by authors I had never heard of before that I really enjoyed. And that's always kind of my hope when I'm reading an anthology, that I'll find a new author to explore that I haven't read before, or I've only read a little bit from them, and I'll be really impressed. One of the stories that I did really enjoy was written by Garth Nix, and I do have a book by Garth Nix that I've had on my shelf for quite a few months now. So the fact that I enjoyed their writing in the story gives me a lot of hope that I'll enjoy the book I have by them. Another author that I have never read before but have heard really good things about and have wanted to check out their writing is KJ Parker, and I did like the story by them, Habitat, in this anthology. I am referring to my reading journal here where I noted down the stories that I really liked. I did like Scott Lynch's contribution to this anthology and Amal El-Motar. I adore their writing from This Is How You Lose the Time War. So I expected to like their contribution, and it was actually a poem, and I found it to be very enjoyable, so I liked that. A few authors who I had never read before and hadn't even heard of, but Brooke Bolander, I did really love their contribution to this anthology. And Michael Swanwick, I'd never read anything by them and I really enjoyed their contribution. I don't know how helpful me just shouting off authors' names is to you if you have not personally read this anthology or read anything by them, but yes. If you adore dragons, there will likely be a story or two in here that you will enjoy. However, the second book of this reading vlog has been finished, and it does have a decent rating, 3 to 3.5 stars, and my first read of this vlog was a 5-star read. And then that brings us to this afternoon, because I finished the Book of Dragons last night. But then this afternoon, you have likely already seen because I probably put the clips in before this one here, but I started The Lantern's Ember by Colleen Houck? I don't have my laptop next to me, so I can't actually Google how I should be pronouncing their name, but The Lantern's Ember by this author down here, and I am only 69 pages into this book. It has another stunning cover and I am loving it so far. It is a fantasy romance. It is actually really autumnal, so it was strange that I went out today when it felt like nearly 30 degrees outside and was sitting out in the sun in my bathing suit reading a book all about autumn. And it is kind of, it feels like a retelling almost of the Headless Horseman slash all those mythical folk tales about the elusive Jack character. And yeah, we have the male protagonist Jack, who is what they call a lantern, and he guards a crossing into the other world. Yes, the other world. And then we have a very attractive young witch called or named Ember O'Dare, who Jack has watched grown up, and now that they're both adults, there's some feelings blossoming there, I believe, because Jack doesn't age. And Ember really wants to go to the other world. However, as a witch, if she goes there, she is going to be apprehended as not a criminal of sorts, but kind of. And so Jack really doesn't want her to go, but she ends up there somehow, and then Jack must do everything in his power to rescue his true love before both the earthly and unearthly worlds descend into chaos. And I love the autumnal vibes that this book has given off just in the first 60-70 pages or so, as well as the tension that you can feel between Ember and Jack. I'm absolutely here for it. I'm a little upset that we had some great moments with them at the beginning, and now they are separated, and we're probably not going to get a reunion between the two of them until the very end, when hopefully, likely, Jack rescues Ember. So I honestly just want to curl up with a maybe cup of tea, maybe just a glass of iced water, and continue reading this. We'll see how much more I read of this evening, but I am loving it so far. There are a few things that I'm not the biggest fan of, but overall, I'm really enjoying it. There's also this like really cool pumpkin on the back cover. This cover is just absolutely stunning. Part of me wishes that I had started reading this in like September, October time, but if I read it and really, really love it, I can then reread it when we are well and truly into autumn. So that's my update for right now. I've made my way finally onto my third book here. I got to read out in the sun and have a lovely afternoon and hopefully carry those fun reading vibes into the evening. So let's see how this goes. It is time for me to finally finish off this, oh, sir. It is finally time for me to wrap up this reading vlog with my final thoughts on these 3 books that my lovely friend Becca chose for me to read. And I'm going to start with The Lantern's Ember because this was the last book that I finished. And I think I would give this 4.5 stars. Like I said at the beginning when I started reading this, I adored the atmosphere to this book. This is the perfect book to read in October if you enjoy those witchy autumnal vibes but don't like spooky or scary. This is just quintessentially Halloween and autumn with the depiction of witchy imagery, and you have the main character Jack, who has a jack-o'-lantern and is also the embodiment of the guy from Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman, and I loved that about this book. However, I didn't love the romance in this book so much. I enjoyed our main love interest between Jack and Ember. However, there was also a love triangle, kind of a love quadrant, because you had 3 male protagonists vying for the interest of Ember. And if I'm going to give the author some benefit of the doubt, perhaps they were trying to show unhealthy versions of love in order to convey what a healthy, loving relationship really is, because one of the men vying for the attention of Ember was so incredibly toxic. Like, it was just painful to read almost, because Ember wasn't entirely cognizant of how awful he was, or she was, but she was giving him the benefit of the doubt, and it was so baffling to read that the only way I can suppose the author rationalized on why to include it is to show an unhealthy, toxic love for the target audience of this book, which is young adult. And then the third male character who was interested in Ember, it wasn't unhealthy, and I kind of loved him as a character, so I don't know why the author included the unrequited love aspect either. Maybe to show how if you like someone and they don't like you back, how to respect their wishes and move on, maybe? I don't know. I didn't love the romance in this book, but I loved everything else, so I gave this 4.5 stars. My apologies if I just moved frame slightly, but I did just have to open the window to allow some ventilation into my apartment. You're also going to hear a lot of seagulls squawking, so I apologize for that as well. But those are my thoughts on the books that I read. So Don't Call the Wolf, I absolutely loved. If you enjoy fantasy, enemies to lovers, romance, a little bit more scary, spooky, I would say. There are definitely some high stakes in this one. Then I would recommend this book. I gave it 5 stars. The Book of Dragons, wasn't my favorite. I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy some of the stories in this anthology. Some just didn't land well for me personally. If you are a big fan of dragons, I think this is a cool one to check out and maybe dive in and out of it and read one story at a time rather than just sitting there and reading straight through the anthology. You might enjoy it more that way. And then finally, again, The Lantern's Ember. I really did love this book. I think it's perfect for October. I did not like the depiction of love or romance in this book. However, that's not really the main premise of this book. I would say the main premise of this book and kind of the biggest takeaway is just fun, Halloween-y, witchy vibes. And for that, I was all there for it. So these are the 3 books that I have read during this vlog. It has taken me a very long time to finish these books and also finish this reading vlog, but I hope that you enjoyed it and enjoyed hearing some of my thoughts about these books. That's going to be it for this video, but I hope to be back very soon with a new one. Bye for now.